Unions are already organized.
Right.
They already have a leadership. In many cases, this leadership is supposed to be dedicated to the betterment of their membership. Unfortunately, they don't always perform that function and that role. Many of them cop out. They make deals, and a few of them are downright dishonest. That they really don't care for their membership. So, but unions, and the reason I stress unions, because unions in the world, throughout the world, had a great deal to do with keeping Mumia alive. You see, this movement to, as I said, Mumia's books has been translated into a number of languages throughout the world. He's being read by millions of people throughout the world, less so, unfortunately, in the United States. We have people all over the world. For instance, most people don't know that 51 members of Parliament supported a petition to free Mumia. That there's members of the Italian Parliament, that the Premier of France sent messages to his delegates in the United States to do whatever they can legally to help Mumia Abu-Jamal. So throughout the world, South Africa, trade unions, Italy, France, England, India, Japan, you name almost any, and particularly industrialized country, the trade unions, Canada, Mexico, have been issuing resolutions and statements supporting Mumia Abu-Jamal's case and his freedom. And there's been demonstrations as well. Some places, demonstrations as much as 10,000 people. To get that kind of demonstration in the United States is quite an achievement. We had something like that approaching it when he was threatened with his execution in August of 1995. But it is this worldwide protest, including some of the help from the United States, that has forestalled the hand. It is not the politicians. As a matter of fact, the politicians, including President Clinton and Dole, were taking the sides of the Fraternal Law of Police. As a matter of fact, during the last election campaign, President Clinton was in Philadelphia with the Fraternal Law of Police, showing his support for them. Dole previously had indicated Dole was helpful and instrumental, not helpful, but instrumental in making sure Mumia Abu-Jamal wasn't on public radio.
Okay, we'll get to the FOP later on. I want to get your views on the death penalty. The death penalty has been around since ancient times.
Right.
Okay, I mean, we all know that, but what are your feelings on it?
Well, I'm Jewish, okay? The death penalty has never been a light matter among Jews. As a matter of fact, according to Jewish biblical law, nobody is to be given the death penalty unless they commit such a heinous crime. It usually was and then it had to be two critical observers had to see the crime. Not hearsay, not circumstantial evidences, but two observers had to see the crime. The state of Israel does not have the death penalty. As a matter of fact, the United States is the only industrialized country that has the death penalty today. The only one that's been executed under a death penalty is Eichmann, and even there was a great deal of protest because it was a genocidal murder. He was convicted for killing thousands of Jews. Okay. So, but even there was disagreement about his execution. So, the death penalty is wrong on at least 5 major counts.
Okay.
Number one, it does not deter crime. Okay. There's been enough sociological surveys to prove that, as a matter of fact, when somebody's executed, the crime rate goes up in that area. Okay, this has been shown. Secondly, the death penalty is essentially a racist tool. Individual that by and large, that's going to be executed by the death penalty is either black or Hispanic.
Well, see, that's the number one issue on my mind, regarding the death penalty.
Thirdly, it affects the poor. If you don't have, in this country, if you don't have money to buy a vigorous defense, take what the O.J. Simpson was able to do with money, okay? If you don't have the money to buy a vigorous defense, black or white, you're in trouble right from the beginning. You're in desperate trouble right from the beginning. That was the situation with Mumia.
But not to cut you off, going back to Mumia's case, of course, how has I'm referring to the major players, of course, in that case, especially around the first trial. How did the Pennsylvania court system treat that case? I'm talking about and just a brief synopsis of the prosecutors, the judge, jurors, whatever.
Okay, the judge was Judge Sabo, who was himself I believe, an assistant sheriff for 14 years or thereabouts, but anyway, he was a member of the Fraternal Order of Police for all that time. He's known as a hanging judge, not for any idle reason.
Now, because he was a member, because he was an FOP member, that should immediately have disqualified him from even sitting on the bench at that time.
Well, if this was almost any one of about 50 situations that related to this case, Mumia's case, if they were made into a TV drama, any one of them could have been the linchpin upon which somebody would come in and have Mumia freed, because it was so outrageously illegal and racist in what was done. The judge, FOP member for 14 years, he sentenced 32 people to death so far. 30 of them are people of color. The prosecutor has won 6 death sentences. They both were involved in his first, the original prosecutor was involved in his case where Mumia was given $150. His attorney was given $150 to track down something like over 175 witnesses. The situation was so disgraceful that Mumia had no money, was accused of this heinous crime. The witnesses were dispersed. The police had investigated those 175 plus witnesses, refused did not, eventually refused to give the addresses and the telephone numbers of the witnesses, so that even his court-appointed attorney didn't have the ability to reach these people. Mumia wanted to defend himself, and the judge prevented Mumia from defending himself, because Mumia was evidently doing an excellent job in defending himself. They prevented, most of the time that Mumia's trial was in progress, he was kept out of the courtroom. He was prevented from being even present at his own court proceedings.
So who was this officer in question that was allegedly shot by Mumia?
His name is Daniel Faulkner. I know, strangely enough, there's very little said about him, other than the fact that he was a victim, that he was a police officer, and he was a member of the FOP, and his wife has said certain things about him, in particular about Mumia, which happened to not be true. For instance, that Mumia was in the courtroom smiling when the bloodstained shirt of Officer Faulkner was displayed. The record shows that Mumia was out of the courtroom. That was one of the occasions where Judge Zabel had prevented him from being in the courtroom. So there's been consistent conspiracy of lies related to this case, intimidation of witnesses, abuse of witnesses. One witness wrote a statement that he saw somebody run away from the scene of the crime, and that Mumia was already shot, and Mumia did not do the shooting. They tore his statement up. He wrote the statement 4 different times. They tore the statement up each time. So, if I may, I'd just like to read some of the discrepancies, the outrageous discrepancies, the judicial and the prosecutorial misconduct that was conducted by between the judge and the prosecutors.
Yeah.
Police coerced witnesses to testify against Jamal and rewarded those who did. Police concealed evidence of Jamal's innocence. A false confession story was concocted. A police witness went on vacation and was not available for the trial. Scientific evidence was doctored to militate against Jamal's innocence, and the prosecution offered speculations that turned out to be completely false. Peremptory challenges were used to systematically exclude blacks from sitting on as jurors. Jamal was denied the right to defend himself. Jamal was physically excluded from the courtroom during key portions of the trial. Jamal's past political activities and statements were unconstitutionally used to undermine his character and his defense. The court refused Jamal's request for a lineup identification.
Now, not to cut you off, but the conduct of the of Judge Sabo, which is basically on my mind, because he became, from my understanding, I guess he had become unrestrained at some point. Why did the defense charge him with procedural misconduct?
Well, okay, at the very first trial, which Sabo was also the judge,
Right.
Mumia, as I said, couldn't make his own defense, but he came in to make his statement after he was already convicted, given the he wasn't given the death penalty yet.
Yeah.
There's a penalty phase of the trial.
Sure.
So at the penalty phase, the person who's on trial usually and typically in a rational trial procedure is given the right to make a statement, an unfettered statement.
Right.
Mumia got up to make this statement and started making the statement, and he was doing a very effective job of pointing out some of
Some
kinds
things
of problems, the procedural and errors that were being made. And after he did this, he was cut off by Sabo and said, well, you have made a statement. You have made a statement, therefore you have taken the role as a witness. Since you've taken the role as a witness, which is outrageous, this is a star chamber procedure that I'm talking that the judge has conducted against Mumia. This is, his lead attorney, Len Weinglass, said this is like the Inquisition talking, okay? He says, you have made a statement. You're no longer just making a statement, you're a witness now. Therefore, I'm going to allow the prosecutor to cross-examine you now.
Sure.
Which the prosecutor did. He evidently seemed to relish that role. The prosecutor started asking questions of Mumia, which were unconstitutional, that had to do with his youth as a member of the Black Panther, which were unconstitutional questions, had to do with his beliefs, which were unconstitutional questions. They were not related to the crime whatsoever. So Mumia has never been convicted of a crime up until this one. He had a clean police record, okay? He was involved in political things, but nothing of any criminal nature.
Right.
So